Hey,
Hey, go.
there we go. Yeah, I had to
Oh,
actually turn off my internet for it to work.
I don't know.
Yeah, you never can tell these things, you know. Sometimes they work right away, sometimes there's a little bit of trial and error. Anyway, hello.
Hi.
So
Good to
lovely
meet you,
to,
Lauren.
yes, you too. Very excited to have a discussion with you.
Awesome.
Um, I'll just start by introducing what we're doing here, and then we can go from there if that's okay with you.
Great.
Okay, so for everybody that's joining us, thank you so much. I'm Lauren Seeley. I'm a death and grief doula, and I live in New York City. I do creative memorialization work around end of life and funeral, and I'm an educator. And I'm also the facilitator of two mortality based book clubs, one that meets in person, which is the Silent Book Club of Death NYC, and one where we have a featured book of the month and we have author discussions with awesome people such as Victor about the books that they write. And so today, Victor Sweeney, I love this because your name, I just have to say, you must have had a lot of misspellings with your last name.
Yeah.
Um, you've got almost the same kind of last name as me, and it's the three E's,
It.
and people get it wrong all the
Yep. Story of my life. And
time.
as it turns out, Sweeney without the last E is very common. But there's one right way, as we all know.
Yes. It's like Sealy. Everybody leaves that last E out of
Yeah.
Sealy because that's very common. But with that extra E, it's like, oh my
It's
goodness, three E's, never heard of it.
yeah.
So we're gonna be discussing Victor's book today, which is Now Departing, about his work as a funeral director. And Victor, I just have to say, I really enjoyed reading this book and your perspective and
Thank you.
learning about your people and your life and your experience and what drew you to this work. So I'm going to hand you the floor now and let you introduce yourself and kind of how you got here.
Yeah. So I mean, it's a weird thing to kind of open up your brain and put it between covers for other people to see. Uh, so that's it's tricky because I don't know if I feel like it kind of overexposes you a little bit. I'm lucky in that I live in the middle of nowhere and everybody here already knows me. And anybody who comes to the funeral home, like we kind of share this together and we get to know each other in the process. So it's not like for my local people there were no big revelations, you know. We already know about each other, I guess. But even then, maybe too, there's something about like sharing my intimate thoughts that I don't share in the line of work. I mean, they're attached to the line of work, obviously, but they don't come up all the time in conversation with strangers or acquaintances or whatever. So, yeah, it's wonderful. It's a good work. And it's definitely a lifestyle, as you well know. Like if your job touches on the death world at all, like total lifestyle change. And yeah, so I mean, when I was sitting down with my editor at Simon and Schuster, you know, really, I didn't want to leave anything on the table. I just wanted to empty my head of 10 years worth of thoughts and experience and just kind of tell my story. Not, and it's not even really sequential, but just make sure I touched on all the high points. And what's really interesting for me is I can't really tell how the book is doing. I don't know if it's doing well. I don't really know. Um, but I will say that I got two emails today, one from a gal from New Zealand and one from a guy from the UK, both of whom uh, have either seen my work on YouTube or whatever. They came across me somewhere and they're like, "Hey, just want to let you know I'm pursuing death care." You know, and they're both going about it in different ways than me, which is great. Um, but just super interesting to see that it has an impact, I guess. And that's kind of what I'm hoping the book does, because I like to think at least the book has a very holistic sort of view of death, and that it's not just answering pithy questions on YouTube, but
Yeah.
it's deeper and more important than that.
Yeah, and I think it's so important to give perspective into the lives of people that work in this space because um, it's been so unknown for so
Oh
long.
yes.
I mean, the work itself, yes, you can find out what happens behind closed doors. You can find out all that stuff. But I think people really just want to know, like, who's doing this work? What goes on in the minds of the people that are in
Isn't
this space?
isn't that
What
the
are they
interesting
like?
thing? Yeah, it in some ways the objective, right? The tactile, whatever happens, isn't as important as the subjective, who is doing it. I can't tell you how many people I've run across and they say, "Oh, like I'm glad you'll be around when I die," or whatever variation of that it is. Um, but it is interesting too because there are, you know, I'm not tech savvy. Okay, like we just barely got this Instagram live thing going. I'm not good at it. Okay, um, but I've found as I've kind of stepped into this realm of being like a forward-facing mortician, I guess you could call it.
Yeah.
Uh, as I've done that, I found that there are a lot of other morticians out there in this same arena. Or maybe so-called morticians, or I heard someone, a fellow embalmer from Ohio sent me a message, and they said, "Ah, you're one of the good funeral tainers," and I really like that moniker, the funeral tainers, because there are a lot of people out here who are kind of doing this thing as something sensational or something to get clicks, and like they don't do the job, they don't do the hands-on work. So, yeah, part of talking about death, I think, in a holistic way, um, is sharing the things like not only that are clickbait worthy, but also the really mundane things and the really sad things and the really happy things and those little unexpected silver linings along the way. And a book is a really beautiful way to do that. So I honestly I feel so lucky and blessed to have done it.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. And I was thinking when you said funeral tainer, it made me think of the term somebody once said death influencer, death fluencer, I
Yeah,
think.
there's synonyms. And it's crazy, I feel like I'm punching down in some ways. So I try not to get too hard on those people, but it's like, it's a hard slog to uh, do the job 9 to 5 and then some, like I'm on call every other day of the year.
Yeah.
Uh, and so it's a lot then to also try to squeeze out what other, a couple years ago it was writing this book, and now I'm like working on a podcast and some other stuff. And like I don't really like it, if I'm being very honest with you.
Yeah.
Um, but I think it's necessary, if only to just tell about the things that I know that are true and good and beautiful in the death world, because it like it's a very easy subject to slander or look askance at.
Yeah. Yeah. And I got to be honest with you. It's something I think as somebody that talks a lot, myself and like panels and discussions and things like that around books, around death, around grief. A lot of the talks that I do are around pet loss.
Sure,
More than humans because I'm creative in the funeral space. I do like more personalization for like memorials that kind of want more of a story being
sure.
told. And I also train funeral directors on how to be more creative in the funeral space
Nice. That's
from work that
noble. I
I've
like that.
done. Yeah, it's work that I've done working in funeral,
Mhm.
with a funeral director. I am not a funeral director. I'm a death doula, but
Oh, you got
in
to
the
get
death
on it. You
space.
gotta, you gotta, gotta jump to the next
Oh,
step.
I've thought about it, but I really enjoy the creative part
Yeah.
and like and I'm not to say that it isn't creative, but like I'm kind of doing my own thing in a way.
Well, and you don't have to be the one who's like on the hook if the grave doesn't get dug or something. So that's pretty cool.
I don't want to do that part, but I have so much respect for you guys and I watch
Yeah.
what you do and I watch how little you sleep and I
Well,
watch how,
and it's
yeah,
it's what's interesting to me. So I've only recently understood what a death doula is, and you can enlighten me. But I I've always thought like, why the hell would I need a death doula? Because like in a small town, like yeah, I just get to plan everything jot and tittle. Like, you want me to sing for your funeral? You want me to write the obit? You want me
Yeah.
to come up with some random thing that you asked me to do? Like, there's in a small town, there's nobody else. So, like, every hat just falls on my head. So,
Yes.
yeah, I can definitely see where, yeah, in a bigger demographic, like, it's helpful to have somebody to do all the weird outside stuff. But at least where I'm at, and maybe that was like maybe you kind of caught that in the book. Like where I'm at, it's just kind of like
Yeah.
everything kind of falls under my purview. So yeah, I guess I do get to kind of you know n moonlight as a death doula.
Yeah, you're also a death doula. And
Yeah,
I
I'm
mean,
not gonna get certified or anything. I'm just gonna keep doing what I'm doing.
but you've got that hands-on experience too. So you
Yeah,
understand. I mean, more or less it's like the death doulas, we wear so many hats. There aren't a lot doing what I do because I live in New York City and I've got an art background, and so a lot of what I do is honestly really creative. It's either like education or grief support or
yeah,
personalization. It's something that's not going to be needed everywhere, but it's
right.
something that could benefit everyone everywhere in the death space.
I like
But
that.
for me, it's more like I do, end of life planning. Like I was saying, I do it around like pet loss. So when people get
Yeah.
a terminal diagnosis, I support them through that. I help make the plans. I'm there for the appointment if they have a euthanasia done at home.
Mhm.
I help them with the aftercare. I also worked in aquamation for pets, so I understand how all that works.
Oh yeah.
And
Nice.
I worked in funeral for humans, so I kind of have,
Yeah, yeah,
both. And so now I kind of just take care of both. But mostly for humans in the death space, I'm doing like curated funeral stuff, which, like I said, is not going to be something that is needed everywhere,
yeah.
but something that everybody can benefit from, learning more of the creative curve of if somebody does want that sort of thing. And unfortunately, a lot of the stuff that I do is around like younger people and pediatric and because there's more need for like that storytelling and that like
Yes,
vibrancy and
yes.
so that's
Especially when life is short, you know.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And so, as a death doula, most death doulas, typically are doing like end of life planning. They're doing paperwork. They're trying to set up, something beautiful for the end of life for the family,
Hmm.
a living funeral or, helping with the aftercare. Are not funeral directors, but can work in tandem with funeral directors if they
Okay.
understand that, like, I'm just supporting the family. I know this about them, and now you can
Yeah.
do your thing.
Yeah. No,
But
that's cool. I like that.
yeah, but it's different for everybody, and we all wear different hats. I hate paperwork. I hate paperwork. If I can like not
Oh
have to
yeah.
do that part, great. I
It's
don't want to do.
it's the worst. And then if you make a mistake, it's
Oh,
it's just terrible.
I
You feel
know.
like a real bonehead. Yeah, no, it's really lovely. I mean, being in a small town, I grew up in Metro Detroit. And moved to Bismarck, North Dakota as a teenager. So automotive
Very
collapsed.
different. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, automotive collapsed, and then Dad took the family from Detroit to Bismarck. And I remember actually flying in for the first time, and it's just field. I mean, it's fields. There are it's just fields the whole plane ride essentially. Not a town to be seen. And we finally see the town in the distance, and the airport's kind of on the edge of Bismarck. And as we're coming down, I'm like looking for the airport, and there's like, to my eyes, leaving Detroit, like there's no airport. I can't see anything. I was like, we're landing in a field. My God, like we've done it. We're in the middle of nowhere now. And there actually like there was some tarmac. There was like a two gate airport. Like it was very small. But and then I move here, and so I'm even more remote. Like if you think Bismarck is remote, Warren, Minnesota is remoter. It is. I'm 15 miles from Canada, or sorry, 60 miles from Canada, 15 miles from North Dakota. So just,
Oh, okay.
I mean, so far away from normal human habitation. Uh, but it's really nice in a lot of ways because yeah, you get to know everyone. So
Hmm.
like I had a funeral for one of my friend's wives 2 weeks ago, and like that sucked. It was
Yeah.
terrible, but also, like, I have the advantage. I know the family. I know the kids. I know the
Yeah.
mom who died, and and they don't know what to do. So it's like, all right, like just everyone like pile on my back. Let's just go and see where we end up. And so it's been interesting in the weeks that have followed. We've started talking about a headstone. And it's like, well, the grave kind of is by the baseball diamond, and like, dad and the kids play baseball. It's like, why don't we make something tall enough to see from the ball field? So
Oh,
like they're just like little touches along the way, but I think it's because like I'm close with so many people that come through my doors. It's really easy, and it's like 2 weeks ago I cried just about every day. Cried at the funeral, cried at the visitation, cried at the burial, cried at everything.
yeah.
And but like that's the beauty about the small town vibe. And as far as my book, as far as Now Departing goes, it was very interesting because I mean, I basically had, I think, 5 ideas. I had five maybe big ideas I wanted to hit on. And then I wrote like a chapter each about those 5 ideas or whatever they were. And then I thought of 5 stories that I like. So I was like, well, I'm going to tell these 5 stories and then work in the reverse and figure out what ideas fit with these stories. So the first time it was like 5 ideas, find stories to fit. The second cluster were like stories I want to tell. What's the point? What am I actually really trying to get to? Um, and then I found that maybe 3/4 the way through my writing, I was like, oh no, my little town has become part of the character. And so I also had to kind of go back and just like lean into that a little bit because it turns out that it's not, yes, it's a book about undertaking, but it's also just a book about like smallness.
Yeah.
Um, like smallness, and then there's like this grand, huge, looming specter of death. So it was really a delight, and I didn't really know where I was going right away when I started writing the thing, but it turned out.
I loved it. I love learning about the town that you live in and everybody that's there. I aspire to move to a smaller town when I retire.
Yeah, you should
Um,
do it. It's
we
great.
love, we love, my husband and I love South Dakota and we love Deadwood.
Oh yeah,
And every time we
Deadwood's
go
cool.
there, it just feels like home, it's so cute there. And they have, Victorian houses and they've got that cool summit. I mean,
Yeah.
there's a lot of things going on there. We accidentally ended up there during Sturgis this summer.
Oh yeah, yeah. Of all the times to
Of
be
all
there.
the times, it was fun though. I mean, the kids were with us and stuff, and we were just like, well, we didn't do this on purpose, but it's on our trip, so we're just gonna make
Yeah.
the most of it. And it was a lot of fun. And so the kids really, were like, wow, this town is cool, and this happens once a year. And I say, yeah, this happens once a year. And they said, we'll definitely come visit you if you move here. So,
There you go.
you
Well,
know,
you ought to check out Dakota Major, as I call North Dakota, because it is the superior of the I'm biased, but no, I'll tell you what, like life out here in the middle of nowhere, it has some perks. I mean, it has some disadvantages, obviously. So today, do you want to know what I did today?
what did you do today?
So my granite shop that's been making headstones for my business for the last 50 years. They bought a competing granite shop like in a town a half hour away. And when they bought it, the previous guy who had it had a bunch of antique mortuary supplies that he collected, and it just kind of ended up on a shelf way back in the warehouse. And so they discovered this and were like, Victor, do you want all this cool antique mortuary supplies? And I was like, yeah, I would love that.
Nice.
So I filled the back of my van with mortuary supplies, just these big black boxes with latches on. I brought him into work and we set up a little studio in the front of my funeral chapel. My friend Josh and I, who helps me record the podcast and just kind of do all the other little weird stuff that I found myself in. And so we did an unboxing video of this
Yes.
cool shit. Oh man, it's great. So there were like casket lamps that hang over the open lid and cast like a rosy glow, and just some other the whole box of mortuary like uh instruments, and even some bottles of embalming fluid that were still
Whoa.
intact. And they're just some awesome cool stuff. So that's what I did today. So we were kind of quiet today, so instead I just filmed something silly that we'll eventually get around to putting on the web. But it's nice. Every day just kind of is its own little adventure,
Yeah.
and that's kind of the beauty of it.
I can't wait for this unboxing video to drop because that
It's gonna
is
be
like
cool.
I love that kind of stuff. And I'm so intrigued by like what we did back then and what we do now and how things have advanced. And obviously just, I think
Well,
that it's
as
just really interesting.
it was interesting because as I was looking at the whole tableau, I found like this huge drape screen. It came in like all these different parts, and we like struggled to put it. We put this thing together, and it had like velvet drapes and these big cornices and tassels. And then you set up the casket with
Whoa.
the casket lamp over it, and all these cool things that we don't have now.
Like a
And I was like,
tent?
kind of, yeah. It's really cool.
Oh my
And
gosh.
I'm getting all this together, and I'm like, man, like we don't have this anymore. And I think in some ways we're less for it. Like we've for whatever I don't know for whatever we've achieved, or I struggle because like there is I think this conflict between kind of the modern mind of like stripping things back and making things simple, and then like the Victorian mind of like
Yes.
let's make this as insane as possible, and to see it on display today was kind of fun,
Yeah.
and I was like, maybe we need a little pomp and circumstance sometimes. I understand that there's like this aspect of humility, and like I get that I am going to become worm food someday, and nobody's going to remember me, and my book is going to be dust on a shelf, moldering away. Like I get it. I'm not important. I'm just some random guy from the middle of nowhere. Okay, I'm not important whatsoever. Um, but that also fights really hard with I think the kind of beauty of making these grand celebrations that I think we've moved away from. And I don't know if they're going to
Yeah.
come back, but I miss something that I've never had. Whatever the German word for that is.
Yeah.
To miss something you've never had is really it was very, very palpable today as I'm tangling myself up in mortuary accoutrement that my, grandfather would have used.
There's a word for being homesick for a place you've never been to. And
Yes,
I imagine
Heimweh.
that
Yes, it's in my
I,
book. Yes.
yeah. Yeah,
It's like
and
that.
I love Victorian mourning practices. I mean, that's something that was another reason why I was like, I cannot wait to see what you found in this box because I love the Victorian mourning practices. And yeah, it was, a little bit over the top, but I think it was so beautiful the way that we like death was so like out in the open and not for necessarily good reasons during that time. There's a lot of reasons why it had to be, and I get
Yeah.
that. But just the idea of like someone that I loved has died, so I'm gonna dress in black and I'm gonna wear these different like shades of dark colors and jewelry and
I'm gonna put a
adornments
big
and
put a big black wreath on my front door so everybody that
hmm
drives by knows it. I was talking to a friend of mine who's currently in Sweden, and he said that he's in this little town in Sweden where he's working on some stuff. But he was saying he's like, yeah, when somebody has a baby, they have this big like stork cutout that they hammer into the yard. So then
okay.
like, oh, that family has a new baby, and you just bring them stuff.
I
Or
love that.
yeah, and I was like, what we used to do that. We used to do that with death. Um,
Yeah.
and then we've somehow, I don't know, we live life in a really grand way now, I think. Like there's so much self-aggrandizement that's out there. I mean, I'm just as guilty of it as anybody else. Uh, and yet then it comes to death, we're like, oh no, no, I just want to be humble. Like, what? Like you bought a new car every year. You want to be humble now? Like
Yeah.
just be yourself. It's fine.
Yeah, it's
You
like
know?
you think about like birthday parties and weddings and like the way that
Yeah.
people celebrate those things, and you're like, death is also a big, like chapter of your book ending, you should want to have a little more like, and I think that like in a way we are kind of continuing that tradition of the Victorian mourning. We just do it online now. Um,
Yeah.
Kind of like everybody is, and I love seeing this, like people are so much more open about speaking about grief and death and loss. And I don't know if it's just me and what I've curated for my own following and
Yeah.
follow people I'm following in my feed, where everybody's talking about grief and their feelings around death and loss and things that they do to honor their beloveds. I love showing other people how to do that. And in that way, I think we're still kind of practicing that, but it just went away for so long that I think that finding those ways to bring it back to like let people know I am grieving, even if that's a button that you're wearing on your jacket that says,
Yeah.
my person just died, I'm
Yeah. Real
sad, I'm
sad.
grieving. And
Yeah.
that counts, you know, it's
Yeah.
not going to be, I mean, there's a, we can't bring it all back because like who wants to wear full black head to toe in the summer
I do.
unless they
Oh no.
absolutely have to. You do? Cool. That's
Yeah,
all good.
I think I would. I don't know. I no, it's really no, it's in some ways, and being, you talk about, you don't know what you curate too, because that's a tricky thing. Like when you live and work in the death realm, like this is the only thing you really see.
Yeah.
So it's hard to know what other people are doing. I mean, even in my situation, like I see everyone in town, and whatever, you see someone at the grocery store.
Yeah.
Uh, but like I know them because we did a funeral. So like there's always kind of this niggling kind of death imp in the back of your head. Where you're like, oh yeah,
Yeah.
that's the connection. And so it's hard, I don't know how the other more than a half live. I don't know because I'm just around it all the time. And like my
Yeah.
my poor kids, they're around it constantly. Um like my middle son has been on two death calls with me thus far. It's just the way of life. So yeah, I don't know how else to talk about it. What I have found now, finding myself on the internet, is that talking about it very honestly, and I don't think I put on too many airs. I'm not that fancy. I don't have a soapbox. I don't have a lot of like pet projects I'm trying to promote or anything. But just to talk about it candidly and frankly, and then have some experience, it's amazing how that something that to maybe you and I seems really simple. It's amazing how that registers with people.
Yeah. Yeah. And honestly, I was gonna say in the when we first started talking in the beginning, I had trailed way off of what I was gonna say about you saying that you're not like super into doing the social media stuff or the podcasty stuff. I'm not either. I had to
Yeah,
work really hard to get past that, and there's a reason that I decided to. Now, I have a background as a model. I've been a model for 25 years.
no kidding.
Terrible time doing commercials. Just the anxiety of like acting or and so I haven't had too many of those, but my point is that when I started doing this work and I started talking about the grief in my own life, because what led me here was all the grief I had experienced in my own life, I realize people perk up. They want to hear what other people that have experienced it or work in that space have to say because it helps them understand what they're going through.
Hmm.
And so for you, even if you're not like crazy about doing the podcast stuff or the social media stuff, it matters to people what you're saying and
Yeah,
they care and they want to listen to you because you
isn't
have
isn't
the
that
experience.
yeah, isn't that the strange thing? See, I get really I've been thinking about this a lot because the weird thing about being an undertaker is
Yeah.
that your work is naturally ephemeral, right? Like what I make, you get to, you get to see it. It's like viewing a piece of art in some way, right? I
Yes.
represent someone's dead to them, and they look beautiful and wonderful. And
Yeah.
then day two, we close the casket, and either it gets burned up or it goes in the ground. Like
Yeah.
that's gone. And so, like, I realized, oh, I work strictly in the ephemeral, like strictly in things that pass away, that disappear. I work in memory, essentially. Like
Yeah.
the nerds at, like, I don't know, name some big conglomerate. They want to call it memory picture or whatever. I don't believe in that. But
Yeah.
like it is true though that like we just work in something that is it just is there for a little while and gone. And that's very in some ways that's heartening because oh well, if it exists in memory, that's actually almost better than a picture, right?
Yeah.
At least it raises more emotion, but um, two, it makes me sad too because I'm like, oh, I've done some cool stuff and it disappears. So in some ways, getting onto the internet, not that the internet will be around forever, I don't think, but um, you put out a video and
Yeah.
uh, and it touches somebody, and then I get a message 8 months later saying, "Hey, I saw your video from 8 months ago and was really moved by it." Like, okay, that actually it does mean something, and I think it is important. And despite, yeah, maybe likewise my knee-jerk reaction to just hating it and really only wanting to work one-on-one in the real world,
Yeah.
um, despite my knee-jerk reaction against that, I have found there to be good things too. So,
Yeah. And I think that like if there's and I have given this advice to very young funeral directors who are like, how am I going to get up in front of a room full of people? And I'm like, well, first of all, you're just going to learn to do that. You will.
oh yeah, you just do
But
hard stuff every day, and then you
yeah,
get used to it.
yeah. And I also say, think about it this way. It's not about us, it's about them. So
Yeah,
we have to realize that what we're doing and these conversations that we're having, they're for other people. They're not necessarily for us. Who cares how we look? It doesn't matter. It's about them. It's
that's exactly right. No, see, yeah, and that's the funny thing, isn't it? That the more outward you go, the less the little things matter. So,
yeah,
I once I've had this discussion a number of times, and it always makes me laugh to be like, "Well, how do you say the right thing?" I'm like, "Oh, you don't. You just say whatever the hell you want, uh, and then you say it with a smile and you care, and then it doesn't matter. You walk into a room like where a deathbed is, and you're like, "Hey, how's it going?" And like the answer is awful. This is going off worst day of my life. Um,
yeah,
but the fact that you're there at 2 a.m. when nobody else in town is awake and you actually care and you came in and you dressed up and you carry mom out of the house, like uh, my foot doesn't go in my mouth anymore. It doesn't matter. It's not about me. It's about you.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So I think that you're doing good things, and even if it's not your favorite thing to be, out there in the internet world, everybody that you're talking to is one on one essentially, even if it's a group
Yeah.
of people. Um,
That's fair.
I did have some questions that I wanted to ask about the book.
Yes,
Um,
please.
to be more specific, although I am enjoying having this conversation just about all the cool stuff that you're doing and what you found today,
Thanks.
and your perspective on working in this field, and especially from a smaller place than what I'm used to. It's always interesting to see like what other people are doing in other places. Like how does it
Yeah.
feel to be in a different, because I've only ever been in this work here. So um okay, so one of the things I wanted to note was that I love when you quoted, to me, a cemetery is where the dead and the living intersect, not only physically, but in some other plane too. Um, and I'd love to talk about that a little bit. And
Oh, yeah.
also just gonna ask, are you a taphophile?
Uh, like in that I love graves.
Yeah,
Yeah, like designing headstones is probably one of the more favorite parts of my job. Totally relaxing. Love it.
so
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah. Actually, if I knew how to share pictures on here, I would share. We were in Hawaii a couple weeks ago visiting a friend of mine, my wife and I, and went to this cemetery with this tree, this gigantic koa tree, the one that surfboards are made out of, the originals anyway. And the branches, I mean, I don't know how wide this thing is, like 60, 80 feet wide, something like that. And the branches are like skimming the tops of these headstones, and each one is just more amazing than the next. And I was like a kid in a candy store, and my wife was like, "Victor, why are you like you are more excited now than you were when we went to the beach?" I'm like, "This is amazing though. You got to see these." I'm just like racing around like an absolute lunatic. But yeah, love headstones. Big fan. So yes, the cemeteries being places of intersection, it's interesting. Some people would call it a liminal space, maybe,
Mhm.
but it is. It is. I mean, I think anybody could walk through a cemetery and kind of feel it. Your loved ones don't have to be buried in a particular place for you to be like, ah, this is a location of power.
Yeah.
And it's not simply because there are dead bodies rotting under your feet. There's something else much deeper going on there. I think it's an easy place to wrestle with your own mortality if you
Hmm.
like doing that. Or like yeah, we play in our cemetery a lot. It's
I
just
love
down the
that.
block. Yeah, I could walk you out my front door and turn left, and you would see the cemetery. So we play in our cemetery a lot, but yeah, there's. yeah, it's just a beautiful place, and there's a certain harmony in it that I just really enjoy.
It's very calming to me to be in cemeteries. As a person, and this is not, I know not everybody believes this, but energy does still exist within people after they pass. I believe, and in my mind, it's always been like this calmness, just this calmest, like most purest, energetic. And I don't know if this is something you've ever experienced, because like I said, everybody has different beliefs or
Yeah.
what they experience, but that just being in the space with a a decedent after they passed, when you're like taking care of them and you're like what I would do is like bathe them, dress them, hair and
Hmm.
makeup sort of thing, and I just feel this like calmness. And being in a cemetery is like a lot of that. It's like a lot of that. It's like a lot of that,
Yeah.
like really calming, just like you feel safe there almost like in a way that you don't in a lot of other spaces. Um, I do a lot of work with Greenwood Cemetery here in New
Hmm.
York. I have been locked into Greenwood Cemetery at night by myself, which is
Nice.
cool.
On
And it
purpose or
is
mistake?
no, 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 just let them know when I need to come out, sort of thing. And I walk around. I mean, I've walked around like a little bit, obviously not taking too much advantage of like being there later than I'm supposed to, but
Yeah,
like
yeah,
I've walked around a little bit and I'm like, I am by myself in the dark at the cemetery in New
yeah.
York, and I am safe, and I
Isn't
feel
that
safe.
weird?
And
Yeah.
this is just like, and I mean, and it's the only place that I've ever felt that level of safety. I mean, granted, if you're locked in, but still, there's just this like really like calm, and I think that there's so many layers of why that is the way that it is. But I also have taken my kids to the cemetery for picnics and playing and things like that
As
since they
you
were really
should.
little.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
everyone should. Yeah, I mean, and I think the thing is like I don't know if I believe in energies, but I also don't believe in trying to measure everything. Like I don't
Yeah.
think I think almost nothing can be quantified. I mean, outside of the most basic things, like even, they talk about like quantum relativity. Like it all just becomes nonsense and at the end. So, yeah, I don't know. Like does it exist? Sure. Is it quantifiable or even qualifiable in any meaningful way? I don't know. Um, but yeah, it is very lovely, and I do think people don't take advantage of cemeteries enough. And then I get really sad where you get all these people who are like, we don't need cemeteries. Like we really do.
Yeah,
And
we
even
do.
if and even if I'm there, and I so one of my buddies is a woodworker, and we've talked for years. What if we made a headstone? Pull it back further. Okay. What if we made a headstone where the bottom was stone and the upright was like white oak? Okay, and it had my name and dates on it, right? And then after 100 years, that white oak would be illegible, and it would rot away to nothing. And on the stone, you could just have my initials or something. Because at the end of the day, like after 100 years, it probably doesn't matter. But the fact is, like I was still here, and even just the fact that there is a 4 by 8 piece of land with my corpse in it uh, has meaning, even if there's no one who knows me. And so it does make me sad, like when we've moved away from cemeteries, like it's kind of, I don't know, it's like a weird version of nihilism, I think, or I don't know. I think even like, could I even say false humility? To be like, oh, yeah, like I realize I'm just one in billions, but I still have enough value to have some place with like a rock with my name on it, you know?
Yeah. I mean, I personally don't plan on getting buried, but I have a really cool urn that I'm going into, so I'm happy with that. And I told my
But then
husband, if
what? Then what? What are you gonna do with your
inter
urn after?
inter me at some point, keep me
There we
for
go.
as long
Okay.
as you need to.
There
But
you
yeah,
go.
I
Okay.
definitely have
You got to do
plans of,
something.
yeah,
'Cause, yeah,
I
I
I
was
have plans.
I was talking with a friend of mine, and he's like, "Oh yeah, my dad was cremated." And I was like, "What about you?" "I want to be cremated." I'm like, "Well, what after that?" "I don't know. Just have my son figured out." I'm like, "So your son's gonna have you and your dad at some point? Like we're gonna have a never-ending matryoshka of
Just
urns."
collection.
Yeah, like your great grandson's just gonna have this like wagon full of urns he's gonna have to cart around every place he moves. Um, so yeah, no, it's important to have a place, and even if it's, you know, I don't know. I think about it a lot. So I grew up in Metro Detroit. My wife's family's in Bismarck. I spent my formative years in Bismarck. But mean, I could just as well be buried here in Warren. I don't know, but I don't know. I could die tomorrow. Put me here. Maybe my family moves away. That's fine. But I need to inhabit. I inhabited somewhere the entire time I was alive. I need to inhabit somewhere again.
Yeah, yeah. I don't have any desire to have my ashes sprinkled anywhere or anything like that. Like just bury me or inter me like in a put me in a columbarium or something. But I think that the idea of having like a place of rest, I love that. I mean, even if it's like because there's so many different ways that people are memorialized in cemeteries over time, experimental ways of like making
Hmm.
headstones that last and don't last and you go out to like places like Virginia City and you've got those old like Western graveyards and they're like,
Yeah.
you've got some wood headstones and you're like, how are these still here?
Oh yeah. There's
Uh,
some at my church that are. I mean, it's amazing. It's been 130 years, still trucking.
Right.
Yeah.
But I mean, even if I don't know who that person is, I love that that's there. I want to know who is this person? How old were they when they died?
Yeah.
Like, I love storytelling and I love being able to like figure out who people were. And someday someone's going to come across your grave and go, "Oh, who's this Victor fella?
Yeah.
Oh, this name sounds familiar. I'm going to look him up. Oh, cool. He was a funeral director and he wrote a book."
Yeah,
And
wouldn't
so
that be
it's
nice? Yeah, that'd
yeah,
be cool. But not in like not in like a, self-congratulatory kind of way, but like I think it's really wonderful. There's nothing I like more than finding out about somebody. Like there's an author I really like named Henry Van Dyke. He was a Presbyterian minister. He actually gave at the sermon at Mark Twain's funeral.
oh, cool.
So he just lived a cool life, this guy. And it's like, I can go on and find his grave. How cool is that? Like if I wanted to go and see where his body is, I could go there. And like what kind of stone does he have? What does it say about him? What doesn't it say about him? And there's something I like about that, and I just can't shake it. There was a I'm hopefully receiving it soon. There was a guy that called me in the fall maybe, and he said, "Victor, my great great grandma has an iron cross in this little Polish cemetery, and it's cool. Like it has a crucifix, and the foot is like a skull and crossbones. It's awesome.
What?
And then there's a nameplate, and the nameplate had her name painted on. So she died in 1898. So the paint is gone.
Yeah.
And so we dug into the cemetery records. We figured out this gal's name. We had it reproduced in bronze, and then I was able to take apart the little name plaque that had paint on it, sent it off to my granite shop, and they like mounted the plate to it.
Whoa,
And
cool.
so like, but we're gonna put her name back. Like her name has been gone, and we're gonna
For a
put it
long time,
back.
yeah.
Yeah. And then what's even better is on this plaque we have where she was born in Bohemia, and it's funny because she's like one of the earliest people in there. She's not Polish, and so you're like, well, how'd she get here? And that's not a question I can answer. But like
Yeah.
how delightful now we've added this little bit of mystery, this little something to think on and chew on, and we've been walking past this cross for ages, and now all of a sudden it's going to have these details on here that we never had before.
So you've been walking by that cross since before this phone call
Yeah,
happened and
yeah,
been like, who is that?
yeah,
What
and
is
been like, oh,
this?
that's so cool. Yeah, and then it turns out that the great grandson of this very gal called me to like figure out how to fix a problem.
I love that. That's so
Yeah.
cool. And that's the thing is I think it's important to, I know that there's a lot of cases where things like that would just it is what it is, and there's not going to be any sort of like maintenance or further storytelling on that part, but um, that's it's important I think to memorialize people in your family, especially I mean, what a cool headstone.
Yeah. Yeah, or
Um,
my one of my buddies, so he's an older guy, bachelor. He goes and lives in Poland for 2 months every year. He just saves up all his vacation at his work, and then he goes and lives in Poland. Um, but he just replaced his great grandmother's grave and one of his great aunt's graves, and these were like Soviet era, concrete, poverty graves basically. And so he put up headstones, and he's like, Victor, they don't do pictures the same way we do. Can we get some pictures made? So he brought back pictures from Poland, and we like scanned them and had them made into porcelains. And then he brought them back to put on the headstone. And
Oh,
it's
cool.
just like, yeah, it's all these like just weird little special little tidbits that, yeah, like, so now there's a stone over in Poland. I don't even remember the name of the town, and it has an American porcelain with this gal's picture on it from the 50s, 40s, you know?
I love
Uh,
that.
yeah. So I don't know, but yeah, it's added it back in. That's kind of neat. And yeah, you lose some of it, but also um in my book I talk about making pauper graves. I just it's funny how these things echo because there was a headstone that I carved for a guy, Anton Zink. And so this guy, don't know anything about him, but here are the dates. So I carve it up, and not 2 months later, the Catholic diocese was calling to ask about this old church that had long since been closed. And so I go looking in the records, see if it ever had any graves there, yada yada yada. And one of the funerals there was for this Anton Zink. And I was like, that's weird because that's 20, 30 miles away, and he's buried in my little town, right? So I do some more research, and I find out that the same guy who that the family bought the old church building and like turned it into like a piece of their shop or something, right? That same guy, so I had to kind of track him down to help the diocese figure out what happened to the building. He's like, "Oh, I remember Anton when I was a kid. He used to trap beavers, and he'd throw them on top of his shack. He'd like this little guy. He spoke no English, little German guy, and he'd throw him on top of his shack and freeze him. And then throughout the winter, we'd see him like digging him out of the snow and bring him inside and thaw him so he could eat him." But I'm like this guy that nobody has talked about in forever, like has reappeared.
Yeah.
And the only reason we're talking about it is because I found this guy's name in a register and I carved his name in a rock. And now, like, there's a story about this weird little German beaver hunter that, like, would have otherwise been lost. And it's
Because
just,
he was in a pauper's grave.
yeah, 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 but just amazing. So there you go.
Yeah. And
Memory is important.
I think, I mean, I love hearing stories about people who are kind of forgotten in the, at the time of burial. They don't really have like any way to be memorialized for one reason or the other. And then later on in time, people find out who they are and they're able to tell their story and they're able to memorialize them. There's a lot of that is happening currently from Hart Island here.
Okay.
Because if you know about Hart Island, you know that there's a lot of people that are unclaimed that are buried there, and that's
Yeah.
just what it is. It's a pandemic sort of resting place. It's a unclaimed person resting place. And there's this podcast that I've been listening to that's discovering, like, they're discovering the people that are buried there, they tell their stories.
Yeah.
And I just love that because it's like, oh, yay, there they are. Their story didn't disappear forever, and you're able to have that conversation again.
Yeah. No, it's, yeah, I don't know. It's funny. Just when you kind of lose faith in humanity, you find it again. That's kind of the beautiful thing. I tell people like I don't get this in my town because I already kind of know everybody and they know I'm not a total weirdo. But when I meet someone and they realize that they find out I'm an undertaker or something,
Yeah.
they'll be like, "How do you do this?" I'm like, "Well, you just get really good at seeing the silver linings."
Yeah.
Like you get really good at seeing it. It's like the first thing you see you only see the silver lining, and the funny thing is it's always there. It's always there, and you don't have to be. I don't think you have to be particularly uh, intelligent to suss it out. I don't think you have to be terribly spiritual to realize it's there. But just the simple fact that if you work around death every day, like you will see the silver lining again
Yeah.
and again and again. Um, if you don't see it, that's when the problems start to come. But like, it doesn't mean
Yeah.
it's not. It doesn't mean it's not there. That's the problem with you. So no, it's yeah, we're lucky. Lauren, you and I are lucky.
So lucky, I think. And I'm sure you've heard this maybe not so much in your town because everybody knows you and it's everybody. But people ask, how can you do this work? How can you be in this space? Is Isn't it? I lost you.
That's all
Okay.
right. I'm back
Uh,
now.
anyway, people ask how you can do it. Why it must be hard. It must be depressing.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like, well, yeah, but I think that people that work in this space have a different way of looking at it. First of all, we see death and loss all the time. Helps us to contemplate our own mortality. And by doing that, we're able to appreciate being alive and being able to be with our family and being
Yeah.
able to wake up in the morning. Uh,
Sorry, I
okay.
lost you there again.
I don't know.
But no,
Yeah, it keeps freezing.
that's okay. But no, no, but yeah, you realize that just that there is a beautiful, simple value in waking up in the morning, isn't there?
Yeah, and you just appreciate, I think, things more. You appreciate when the birds start singing in the spring. You appreciate the
Yeah.
flowers when they start blooming.
Oh,
You just see life
mine are
more.
coming up. I planted a bunch of crocuses in the fall all over my yard,
Oh,
and they're just
cool.
starting to pop up just for the heck of it. No rhyme or reason, you know? And the thing when people ask me about the book, I usually try to tell them, I was like, well, it's memoir and it's soft philosophy and it's storytelling. But also like I don't want to speak too boldly, but I mean it's a book about life.
Yeah,
I mean, it's really like the beating heart of that book. Well, the fact it has a beating heart, right? Like
yeah,
it's not just some slanderous or scandalous or clickbaity book about dead bodies. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Like it's not that flippant sort of. I mean, you know what I'm talking about.
yeah,
It's not that flippant look at death. It's like the opposite. It's like embracing death, and it turns out if you do that you're going to embrace life. That's
yeah,
what it's about.
yeah. And I mean, and that's what I was saying in the beginning about there's a lot of conversations on death and death practices, but there aren't as many conversations about the people doing the work and who they are and what they experience. I mean, you talking about your own grief in the book too,
Yeah.
and your own losses and the way that
Yeah.
you handle it.
It's
And
the worst.
I mean,
And
lots
and
of us are
and
sensitive and cry when we
yeah.
experience things that are hard. And I mean, that doesn't, it's not like we're cold and don't feel anything. We
No,
feel it
the
all.
opposite. That's the last kind of undertaker you want. And then I
Yeah.
mean and to be honest, every time I had to reread my chapter on Alex as I was editing it, it was like doing it all over again. And
Oh,
when I had to read the audiobook for it, it sucked all like it's
yeah.
never not terrible.
Yeah.
And that's okay though, because that's like it's changed my life for the worse in some ways,
Yeah.
for the better in others. Um, you know, and I think it has connected me with families in a different way to go through this particular type of grief. And guess what? I'm
Yeah.
gonna do it again. Like someday I'm gonna bury my parents,
Yeah.
and sometime after that I'll probably bury my wife. God forbid I bury one of my kids. But like
Yeah.
that's just the way it is, and that's okay. I'm not afraid of it. Yeah, it's just we're all human,
Yeah.
even us in the death world, we're all human as as it turns out,
Yeah.
we're terribly human. Uh
Yeah. And there's that misconception, I think, and that those of us that are in this space are just really tough and like able to, or just not, don't have feelings.
oh
And
no, most of us are fools.
I'm like, a
Uh
lot of us cry a lot. We cry.
yeah.
Maybe if you're not seeing us, but we're dealing with sad things and we cry, and I think that being vulnerable as a person in this space and the work that you're doing is so important because it helps people understand that, hey, we are feeling it too. We're feeling it in volume at times, and we're feeling it in our own life on top of feeling it in the work that we're doing as well, our own grief. If
Yeah.
someone we love dies, we still have to come to work. We still
Eh,
have to
that's
deal with
exactly
other
right.
people's grief, and we just
Yeah.
may cry more during
Yeah.
that time. But
No, and it's
um,
interesting. I mean, and it's different being a small town Midwestern white male. We're not supposed to cry that much, so that's fine. But it's like the thing about it, yeah, like it turns out the workload doesn't just stand still for your life.
yeah,
You know, like you
yeah,
lose a friend. Also, you have three other deaths this week. Yeah, you bury your boss's mom. Also, there are still several. You have to come back as soon as you're done and make arrangements. And that's what I did. I had a funeral for my friend's wife at, let's see, that was at 10:30, and I had to make arrangements at 2. So as soon as I was done with the funeral, I had to run back and like make arrangements. And like, it's not ideal, but that's 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 how this works. I mean, that's kind of the whole Catholic idea, right? Of the communion of saints is that we're kind of all in this together, right?
yeah,
Both the living and the dead, in every aspect. We're all just in this big mishmash together,
yeah,
and I take a lot of consolation from that. And that, like, oh yeah, I don't have to be particularly strong, or I don't have to be particularly insightful, or I don't have, like we're all in this together, and I'm not alone,
yeah,
and that's yeah, it's a beautiful thing. We're lucky. We're lucky. We're lucky to do what we do. Like I'm extremely privileged. Like think of Lauren. Think of how many people do you know? And maybe again, your circle's full of deaf people. But think of how many people you know that are afraid of death or never talk about it. And
yeah,
like I never ever have to deal with that. That's something I never. And most people who know me really well also have had to wrestle with that.
yeah,
Just for the fact that they are my friend. They have
yeah. They're
they
like,
have to
whoa,
do
whoa,
they.
whoa.
Yeah, like you don't
Like,
get a
ugh.
choice. This is a package deal. You get to be my friend and wrestle with your mortality. Like that's how it goes.
Yeah. Well, I've had conversations with my book club that meets in person, right? We also play the death deck after we do our reading. And the
Hmm.
death deck, you have to talk about your mortality. You're talking about death. And people will come that don't want to talk about death. They're
Really?
not comfortable, and they'll just come because they think it's time I start talking about it. It's time I start thinking about it. People I know have died and stuff like
Um,
that. And so
amazing, amazing. A person can get that far in their life.
I'm so
I've thought about
proud
it
every
constantly.
time.
I've thought about death as a concept and my own like every day since I was a child. So
Yeah.
it
Yeah, and
just
I think
it
that
baffles me.
that's you have to you end up doing this kind of work because you're that way, right? Because you're just like, okay, well, I guess I'm meant to be here.
Yeah.
But not everybody thinks that way, and it's kind of wild when you realize, like, outside of the way that you are used to thinking about things or talking about
Hmm.
things, oh, right, there are people that don't want to think about this and don't want
Yeah.
to talk about this, and they don't have an urn that they are going to go in downstairs in their house.
Yeah.
And, just but to see people like make that attempt to like show up and have those conversations
It's huge.
is huge. And I'm
Yeah.
like, you know what? Even if you don't want to say anything, even if you are uncomfortable, you are still here. You're still doing that work, and that's dipping your foot in the water. And honestly, like, it's so important to be able to do that. And so I think, yes, we're definitely in this way. We are very lucky
Yeah.
because we just think about it all the time, and it's not taboo to us because we know what it looks like. We know what to expect, and it's a privilege. It's
Yeah.
that behind the curtain privilege that not everybody has,
Yeah,
you
and I
know?
mean, and I hope in that respect that my book is accessible because that was the other thing. I've had a lot of people. I've had so many people that I know read it who are not readers and go, "Oh, it was great. I just burned right through it. Easy to read." And I'm
Yeah.
like, "Oh, look, I did it. Like that's great. Like to have an easy to read death book is a beautiful thing. Like to have an easy read about the hardest topic, you know."
It
So
really was. It really
yeah.
was.
So I don't know. I don't like I said, I don't know if it's selling particularly well. But if it did, like I mean I would just be so tickled. because then we'd have this discussion. We have discussions all the time about like avoiding hard things, but to have like the real discussion about how important this is and how, oh yeah, it's coming for you and me too, would just be a beautiful thing because it does. Yeah, I don't know. I don't want to toot my own horn or pat my own back, but like I think I've written like a pretty damn good book about death, and there are not that I had to read a lot of books, a lot of death books in preparation for this,
Yeah.
um, and other books that have been released in the last decade or two, that were not good books about death at all. I had to read all of them, I'm really happy, and I think that my book has come across well as like a very accessible, good book about the topic.
It does. And honestly, like it makes it really easy to relate to you and the work that you're doing. I think that it doesn't have that like shocking um like people are going to be like, "Whoa, I
Oh yeah,
can't read this. It's
I
too it's
I
it's
tried to
very
avoid that.
approachable."
Yeah, the only thing that was hard, so we had my editor and I had to talk about this early on, is we had to talk about like when do we want to get to just like honestly some of some of the gruesome realities, not like clickbait, not like, "Whoa, look at how gross this is," but just like
Yeah.
just the hard realities. And so we did kind of hit that in the early chapters. But then what I found is that like the last 7 or 8 chapters kind of like flow into each other and they're just all about love, and so that pleased me. I was like, oh yeah, as it turns out, you know almost through no fault of my own, the first half of the book is about like the physical things and the second half of the book is about the spiritual things.
Yeah.
Yeah, there are all these lovely little, I don't know, coincidences that happened as I was putting it together where I was like, oh, this just flew, it had a flow to it that I never expected. And so yeah,
You
part of that, yeah.
you may have been intuitively writing.
Maybe, because the funny thing about it is I only wrote it in like 15-minute increments at my desk in between doing other stuff.
That's amazing.
So,
That's amazing. I
yeah.
love that. And I mean, and it's so I think that anyone that is interested in learning kind of like what goes on behind the scenes and what it feels like as a person that works as a funeral director, this is a really good book to read because it does give you that personal, approachable, and very interesting. And there's the storytelling there, and there's that. You're talking about your own experiences, and I think that you put it together really well. And I love the story that it tells. And I know I'm also keeping you over time.
No, that's fine. It's all
There's a
good.
lot more questions that I would love to ask you, but I will also save this so people can ask them in the comments as well.
There we go.
Um, and they can return to it and watch it later if they didn't get a chance to finish it or watch it. But I think that this conversation went exactly as it was meant to. And I feel
I,
like it
I
tells a lot, it says a lot about who you are and what to expect in the book. And it's interesting.
well,
Um,
I'm sorry because I found that I'm not. The thing is, like, I find a kindred spirit and we just have a discussion.
yeah,
In,
yeah,
instead
yeah.
of instead of answering questions, it almost invariably just meanders off. But that is, I think, where the whole thing has value is just making connection. You know.
Yeah,
So yeah,
yeah,
if there are other questions, I mean, you can email them to me or whatever, and we can do like straight up Q&A. Uh, but no, this is a value and beautiful, and I'm really grateful you invited me. So thank you.
yeah. Thank you so much for having this conversation with me. And as much as I love having prepared questions, I love having just a conversation about different people in the space and how we look at things and how we do things. And you know what? We always have so much in common, no matter where we're from.
As it turns out, yes,
And so, yeah, so thank you everybody that came to watch and everybody that's going to watch in the future because we're going to save it. Pardon my allergy eyes.
that's
Um,
okay. You can cry.
it's so bad here. The allergy season is starting. It's so bad.
Oh.
Um, this is Victor's book. It's fantastic. I
It's
recommend
super
you.
pretty.
It is this I love, I took a picture of this book with my red light behind it and it
Yeah.
just was like, whoa, it's glowing. Looks so
Yeah.
awesome.
Do you want to know my favorite part? Is
Yes.
they asked me what I wanted it to look like, and so I kind of threw out some ideas, and they threw some back, and it was a team effort. but the deckled edge, so like the rough edge opposite the binding, how like the pages aren't straight across. I
Love that.
That's like an old school way to make a book that I just adore. And I
Yes.
was like, can you even do that anymore? And they're like, yeah, I mean, we haven't in a while, but we could. I was like, okay.
As a bibliophile myself, a person that just loves books.
Yeah,
I love this. This is cool. I mean, you
I
can
know.
kind of see it, but it's like it's like rough, like this book was made in another time. It's so
Yeah,
cool. It has this like vintage feel to it, and I love that you did that. So
yeah. Thank
so
you.
cool. But yeah, so
You can have
thank
me on again anytime.
sweet. I would love to. I could continue having conversations about
No.
probably every topic. Maybe I'll take you up on that after I see that unboxing video because I'm sure I'll have questions after that.
Well, it might take a while to come. My buddy's putting it on his back burner, so we'll see. But actually,
Yeah.
when we get off here, I'll send you a couple snapshots from today just to whet your
Ooh,
appetite.
thank you. Yes.
Awesome.
Thank you so much, Victor.
Yeah,
And
thank
again,
you.
thank you, everybody. Is there anything that you want to leave with? Anything that you want to say that you're doing right now, or have anything coming up, or any sentiments?
No, well, I've got a podcast, I guess, if I can shamelessly self-promote.
Yes, absolutely.
I've got a podcast called Death and with Victor M. Sweeney. It's available anywhere podcasts are. I've got the book, Now Departing. What else am I working on? I'm going to be doing some other stuff, going to LA at some point to do some film. I don't know.
Oh
I
my
just
goodness.
I just try to say yes to things that are within reason, and mostly mind my own business as a little undertaker here in town. So
Yes, got to do a little bit of both.
yeah. No, Lauren, this has been a pleasure. Uh, let's connect again, okay?
Absolutely.
Amazing. Thank you
All
so
right.
much.
Have
All right.
a good rest of your night.
Yes, thanks you too. Bye now.
Bye.